Okay, now it's recording. Okay, I'm sorry, y'all. I always forget to record. Okay, let me reread. So 22 is, hey, Ebony. 22 is, miracles are associated with fear only because of the belief that darkness can hide. You believe that what your physical eyes cannot see does not exist. This leads to a denial of spiritual sight. Miracles rearrange perception and place all levels in true perspective. This is healing because sickness comes from confusing the levels. And finally, 24 says, miracles enable you to heal the sick and raise the dead because you made sickness and death yourself and can therefore abolish both. You are a miracle capable of creating in the likeness of your creator. Everything else is your own nightmare and does not exist. Only the creations of light are real. And that's powerful to say, that we can raise the dead. And really we will understand that that was Jesus's message, is I can do all this stuff, but so can you. I'm no more special than you are. Like I've said in a previous lesson, healing others in today's society, we call that Reiki, where we can use our own healing energies to heal sickness and that kind of thing, energetic healing. So, a lot of the times the rich and the powerful try to make it seem like, Jesus has something that none of us can attain. That's not true. And that, in fact, that was his message to his disciples, that you can do this as well. It makes me think about when he encouraged one of his disciples to walk on the water. He was trying to demonstrate to them that you are God as well. So those are the principles of the miracles. I wanted to give
Hey, Loretta, where did you take that from in the book?
this is I'll tell you exactly the page number.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Page number 4, where he's
Okay.
talking about the principles of miracles.
Okay.
And there's also another book, Cherry, that I actually just ordered. I have already read it, but it's called The Autobiography of Jesus. I've mentioned it to Ebony as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think you'll be very interested in it. It's his story from his own words. Um, and it's his way for him to convey his life in his own words without us having to try to dig through some of the hidden meanings in the Bible. So that's another great read. I know I have 50 million spiritual books I've referenced, but I think that's a good book for folks who really want to understand uh, you know the broader meaning of what Jesus was doing. Because sometimes it's hard to kind of get all from the Bible. Um, I wanted to let those of you who are kind of getting close to lesson 50, you will come up on a review period. So, like lesson 51 is going to be a review period where you will review 5 lessons each day. And the book, the text will give you instructions about how the exercises should be done. But it's fun. It's really fun. But So I wanted to just give you a heads up in case if you get to lesson 51 and you're like, what's this? All right. So tonight's lesson, it is now time that we delve into the content of the book, A Course in Miracles. Usually I've just really talked about each lesson. As all of you who have purchased the book knows, the material in A Course in Miracles requires focus and presence. The content can be quite dense and may require you to read it multiple times in order to fully grasp the concepts. However, reading the chapter and verse provides so much wisdom, depth, and peace that truly goes beyond the mind. To understand and know The messages within this text will raise you higher and offer you freedom from ego consciousness. So tonight we're going to talk about judgment. Um, Romans 2, chapter 2, verse 1 says, "You therefore have no excuse, you who pass judgment on someone else. For at whatever point you judge another, you are condemning yourself, because you who pass judgment do the same things." It makes me think about there is nothing new under the sun. You know, to a large degree, we're capable of doing the same things. We have the same experience. So, in the book A Course in Miracles, I'm reading for everybody who has the book with them, pages 46 through 48, and I'm going to be jumping around a little bit. But on page 46, it says, "When the Bible says, 'Judge not, that ye be not judged,' it means that if you judge the reality of others, you will be unable to avoid judging your own. The choice to judge rather than to know is the cause of the loss of peace. Judgment is the process on which perception, but not knowledge, rests." Um, I have discussed this before in terms of the selectivity of perception, pointing out that evaluation is its obvious prerequisite. So basically saying we evaluate something first, and then we have a perception of it, which leads to judgment. Um, Judgment always involves rejection. It never emphasizes only the positive aspects of what is judged, whether in you or in others. Um, then it says, Jesus says, I'm in the third paragraph now, it says, "You have no idea of the tremendous release and deep peace that comes from meeting yourself and your brothers totally without judgment. When you recognize what you are and what your brothers and sisters are, you will realize that judging them in any way is without meaning. In fact, their meaning, the meaning of your brothers and sisters, is lost to you precisely because you are judging them." And then later on down, it says, "When you feel tired, it is because you have judged yourself as capable of being tired. When you laugh at someone, it is because you have judged him as unworthy. When you laugh at yourself, you must laugh at others, if only because you cannot tolerate the idea of being more unworthy than they are. All this makes you feel tired because it is essentially disheartening. You are not really capable of being tired, but you are very capable of wearying yourself. The strain of constant judgment is virtually intolerable. It is curious that an ability so debilitating would be so deeply cherished." And so he's, in that he's basically talking about um, the burden of judging others, how we cherish this ability to judge others, but it's he's amazed that with it being so debilitating that we do it so much. So Jesus says the choice to judge than to know is the cause of loss of peace. He says judgment is the process on which perception, not knowledge, rests, and that judgment always involves rejection. So, so I'm going to give the example tonight of a young woman relinquishing her newborn baby to a firehouse or a hospital. Back in the day, there was so much shame associated with having a baby out of wedlock that many women would hide their pregnancy, stay homebound for the 9 months, have their baby in the house, wrap the newborn up, and leave them at the doorstop of a high firehouse and run away. And this happened so often because there was so much judgment surrounding, especially if a woman had an affair with a married man and she ended up pregnant, um, or she was too young and wasn't married. Many times her parents would say, no, you cannot keep this baby. You'll never be able to get married. So that this is what judgment does. So it just left many mothers in a position where their only choice was to wrap their baby up and put it in front of a firehouse and run away. So this happened so often that we had to create an act. It's called the Abandoned Infant Newborn Protection Act that requires every fire station to accept a newborn infant without question, without questioning the mother, without disclosing their identity, um, so that people can feel like they have a safe space instead of allowing the baby to sit in front of a doorstep for hours before anybody notice it, to be able to relinquish that child, and that whoever picked the child up, the baby up, would have to go to the nearest hospital. So although this has become an acceptable practice, um, this action has still been met with much judgment and rejection. Of course, the judgment and scandal was incredible years ago, but still today, this compassionate act results in so many opinions and judgments of others. Um, Many of the women, if their identity is disclosed, are fiercely ridiculed by people who have no idea the conditions of the woman's circumstances. The general public would not know if that woman was a teenager, if she had a baby as a result of rape, incest, human trafficking, or the like, or if the woman simply understood that she could never provide a safe, stable life for that child due to financial hardship, under education, domestic violence, and so on and so forth. There's as many reasons why parents have to give up their children as there are people. So this is why Jesus states, judgment is the process. What do you need, son? What you need? Say it out loud, John.
Are you in Zoom now?
Yeah, I'm on Zoom. What's up?
Oh, okay.
What you need, baby?
Oh, nothing.
Judgment is the process on which perception, but not knowledge, rests. Many times people do not know and therefore judge. I'm using the example of a woman because women often receive the harshest judgment from men and other women. Although the men in these situations are often able to voice their displeasure of the pregnancy and abandon the expectant mother, leaving her alone to make the tough decisions. Not many people even inquired about the man. You know, this is also the case for, women having to terminate unwanted pregnancies, giving the baby up for adoption. And even if the woman decides to keep the baby, women are still as judged if the baby was conceived out of wedlock. So in this society, women are often harshly judged. So, but even more than the circumstances, the worldly circumstances that a person may be in, correct? Right? We may not know the worldly circumstances, but even more to consider is we have no idea the soul level reasons why a person would choose the experience of having to give up a child. The soul is here to experience all kinds of in order to grow and evolve. Many times the soul of the baby who had been given away wanted to understand and overcome the illusion of not feeling good enough or to overcome feelings of abandonment and therefore choose this experience to rely on the love and light that he or she has within them. For that soul to ultimately understand that it is an expression of God and ultimately does not even need the acceptance of a parent. Again, we have no idea. And that's what Jesus is saying. Perception and not knowledge is why we judge. We forget there is always a soul level reason for someone to choose an experience. And when we look at a situation and consider that there is a soul level reason surrounding the circumstances that a person chooses, this is when we begin to see that person truly as they are, as a son or daughter of God. When we do this, Jesus says, we have no idea the tremendous release and deep peace that comes from meeting yourself, because judgment always comes from self, judgment of self first, and then your brothers and sisters totally without judgment. When we view ourselves and others with this spiritual awareness, we in fact perceive our own divinity and are able to hold ourselves with the same level of grace and compassion, because we truly are one. When we judge others, we truly judge ourselves. It is difficult for us to understand this concept because we are living in an illusion of separation, but we are one, as we all come from the same source. This process of seeing people from the soul level perspective gives you the ability to have true sight. This is why A Course in Miracles talks so much about sight. There's so many lessons that deal with true sight. Lesson 21, I'm determined to see things differently. Lesson 23, I can escape from the world I see by giving up attack thoughts. 28, above all else, I want to see things differently. 29, God is in everything I see. 30, God is in everything I see because God is in my mind. 31, I'm not the victim of the world I see. 32, I have invented the world I see. 33, there's another way of looking at the world. 34, one of my favorite lessons, I could see peace instead of this. 42, God is my strength. Vision is his gift. Uh, 43, God is my source. I cannot see apart from him. Lesson 44, God is the light in which I see, and so on and so forth. There is so many lessons about sight, because understanding, that's why they call understanding insight. It allows you to see things clearly. So other quotes in A Course in Miracles, I'm going to reference. Page 48 says, God offers only mercy. Your words should only reflect mercy because that is what you have received and that is what you should give. Also, lesson 48 said, page 48 says, it is possible to look upon reality without judgment and merely know that it is there. And this touches on, and we've talked about this before, like how do we recognize and acknowledge something without judgment? Um, so this talks about we're not pretending that the offense has not occurred. We're just deciding not to judge it. And we'll talk a little bit about how to do that. Um, and then page 49 says, Free will must lead to freedom. Judgment always imprisons because it separates segments of reality by the unstable scales of desire. So, what does that mean? So, what Jesus is saying with that is something or someone is judged based on the desires of whoever is doing the judging. For example, the election results. The results may be good for me, but to somebody else, the election results is bad, depending on what side of the fence someone is on. So that's what Jesus means by, it imprisons, because it's based on the unstable scales of desires. It just depends on what we're coming from, our personal interests. So Roxanne, I'm in love with the book Conversations with God. This is another book that is a channeled text. And this is a gentleman who, dealt with homelessness and financial hardship and divorce and all that. And he wrote this angry letter to God. And God started answering his questions, and he was
Mhm.
transcribing the answers as he was getting the information. So I refer often to this book. I don't know if you've heard of it before, but I wanted to read a little bit.
For these books that you're referring to, I
Mhm.
don't know, if you could send me the list of the different books so I could get them.
Absolutely. And I can, Kay, I can send you a list. And actually, Conversations with God is so cheap on Amazon. It's so widely bought
Hmm.
bestseller, Roxanne.
Hmm.
All you literally, the book is like 99 cents, and all you're literally paying for the cost.
Okay.
But these Conversations with God can be found on YouTube, right? Um, Ebony?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
on YouTube. You can,
Okay.
if you anything like me, I like that.
Yeah, I need the hard copy.
Yes, girl, yes. So, but girl, get this book. You will
I
love.
will. I will.
I can't live without this book. Okay. And God is so funny in this book. And he is talking to God, right, y'all? We have all determined that. So the author of the book, his name is Neale Donald Walsh. And again, he was asking all these questions of God. And I'm reading, there's actually 3 books. I'm reading from book 1. And so he asks God, he's like, God, like, why is the world in the condition that it's in? Like, you supposed to be loving, like, all good, forgiving. Like, why is the world in the state that it's in? So, God has a lengthy response to that, but I'm gonna go down a little bit further and read some of his response. He says, your question infers that I choose these events, that it is my will and desire they should occur. Yet I do not will these things into being. I merely observe you doing so. And I do nothing to stop them, because to do so would be to thwart your will. That in turn would deprive you of the God experience, which is the experience you and I have chosen together. Do not condemn, therefore, all that you would call bad in the world. Rather, ask yourself, what about this have you judged bad? And what, if anything, you wish to do to change it? Inquire within rather than without, asking, what part of myself do I wish to experience now in the face of this calamity? What aspect of being do I choose to call forth? For all of life exists as a tool of your own creation, and all of its events merely present themselves as opportunities for you to decide and be who you are. This is true for every soul. And so you see, there are no victims in the universe, only creators. The masters who have walked this planet all knew this. That is why, no matter which master you might name, none imagined themselves to be victimized, though many were truly crucified. Each soul is a master, though some do not remember their origins or their heritage. Yet each creates the situation and the circumstance for its own highest purpose and its own quickest remembering in each moment called now. Judge not then the karmic path walked by another. Envy not success, nor pity failure, for you know not what is success or failure in the soul's reckoning. Call not a thing calamity, nor joyous event, until you decide or witness how it is used. For is a death a calamity if it saves the lives of thousands? And is a life a joyous event if it has caused nothing but grief? Yet even this you should not judge, but keep always your own counsel and allow others theirs. This does not mean ignore a call for help, nor the urging of your own soul to work toward the change of some circumstance or condition. It does not mean avoiding labels. No, it does mean, however, avoiding labels and judgment while you do whatever you do. For each circumstance is a gift, and in each experience is hidden a treasure. So, in his response to Neale, God asserts that we can affect change in an unfortunate circumstance or condition without judging or labeling a person who is doing the unfortunate deed. I was in this situation this past weekend where a good friend of mine came to me for advice because her beautiful, intelligent, lovely spiritual daughter was being bullied by a person in authority. Um, and while we worked toward changing the conditions of which this person was allowed and enabled to treat students in a disrespectful way, I did exactly what God said do not do. While working to change the bullying, I gave the person who had bullied a label. I cursed her, okay? Not to her face, of course, but I did call her a name to my friend. And I decided to later apologize to my friend because she had come to me for help. And for me to speak from my own ego because of my anger at what the person had done was not helping, my friend at all. So it's crazy we're learning this week because I failed the test, y'all. But I know God still loves me anyway. So like I say, Jesus is teaching me right along with everybody else. But my internal guidance system immediately gave me feedback that I had gotten off track of love. And so, though we may think it is difficult, it is simply a decision to withhold judgment while we are working to change a situation. Withholding judgment does not mean inaction or to pacify a situation. And this applies to police brutality, domestic violence, human trafficking, corruption. When we feel the urge, and we will all be guided and moved to act in some way to correct wrongs. When we feel the urgings of our soul to work toward the change of a situation, that collective consciousness, that everybody else has allowed, enabled, ignored, tolerated, when we feel that inspiration to change that which has been accepted by others, we are still called to do so while recognizing the God and the person or people who need to be corrected. Uh, this is very powerful to do. I had to become present and acknowledge that this person who had adopted a pattern of bullying is on her own path. It would most certainly have the vibration of her own actions reflected back to her when she is held accountable for her actions. As we all live in a reflective universe, which means that our shadows and our own dark spaces will be shown back to us in all situations. But it never dawns on us that we can work to change a situation or correct what a person has done without judging or hating them. We have been conditioned to hate. We have been conditioned to judge. Our movies and even our mass media teach us and reinforces us to hate and judge. How has this happened? How have we been programmed to hate and judge? Okay. So everybody, let's imagine that we see a situation playing and replaying out on the news, right? So we're not going to go to police brutality. So that, because that's been beat. We not even going there. So let's imagine that we see on the news where a street camera has caught a man attacking an elderly person and robbing them. So the camera feed is black and white and it's grainy. And we don't know the race of the man. We just see from the video that it's a fairly young, strong man, clearly on the video, masked up with, with his mask on. We see the person that the thief is attacking is very old in age. And the news plays this video over and over and over again, adding their own dialogue and commentary to the video as we're watching this horrible act. When we see it, we immediately feel awful. I mean, it's painful to even watch, as we cannot imagine that someone would treat our own loved ones who are in advanced in age like this. So we're receiving negative feedback from our own internal guidance system. We feel bad. But even though we're feeling bad, that our internal guidance system is telling us we're getting off the track of love, we do not change that channel. We continue to watch this steady circulation of this horrible act being played out. Why don't we change the channel? Because we've been trained not to. We've been programmed to do exactly what we're doing, giving this video our undivided attention, even though what we're seeing has been disturbing our peace for a whole week now. How is this? How have we been trained to do this? Well, the people who control much of the wealth on our planet have already pushed the horror movies and violence on us since birth. Even though they know that no one wants to see an elderly person being brutally beaten for their wallet, even though they know we don't want to see this, they also know that we will do exactly what we've been trained to do: watch disturbing images on TV. I mean, we pay to watch disturbing things on TV. They spend and make a lot of money on these movies so that when they want us to watch something we don't want to see, we watch it anyway. Because we are as caged animals. We are like wild, beautiful lions that live in an unlocked cage who will not escape, even though we have the power and the freedom to do so. We have been domesticated to follow the rules. And in this way, we're using our free will to comply and continue to be programmed. So now we have watched this video for a week now, right? And now they've done some investigation. And we find out that the robber is black and the victim is white. Or we find out that the robber is white and the victim is black. It doesn't matter. They'll take either one. because the ultimate goal is to push the separation and hate. So they don't care. They don't care who the victim is, they don't care who the perpetrator is. And so now that we have all become so invested in this story, right? When we hear the race of the players, the whole country is up in arms. The white supremacists ramp up their hate speech and actions if the victim is white. The people of color are enraged if the victim is black. And so it is as those in power want it to be. We have all been lulled back into unconsciousness and into hate and rage and judgment, painfully focused on the right hand while we have no idea what the left hand is doing. And that is the plan, for them to pass laws without our knowledge and cover up stories of corruption while they have this old trick of division through race running. Racial unrest is the oldest and most effective trick in the bag that works every time to lower our vibration and get us to go into hate and rage and unconsciousness. Y'all don't let them continue to do us like that. Be present, be present, be present, especially when it comes to media and the news. And I'll talk more about this next week, about how our power and mental energies are being used against us. So it's 6:43, and I usually try to give myself a little bit more time to do the meditation. So I'm gonna ask at this point, are there any questions? Does everybody follow? Does anybody want to give comment?